Class, come in. Have a seat.
How was your day today?
Sit down. Alright. Today we're here to discuss some Native American myths. We'll start out with some questions. Mark, I think you have a question.
Yeah, I think I might have one actually.
Let's hear it.
Before the Europeans came to the North Americas, was the land like usable or was it all torn up already?
That's actually a great question. There was actually, before they got here, there was up to 25 million Native Americans living in just North America, and up to 50 million in South America.
I have a question.
James.
How did the Native Americans get food exactly? I'm not too sure.
That's a great question. Let's head outside. Let's go.
We have to take notes?
No. We're just doing facts here.
You still got a volleyball net? Yep. I built it myself.
Nice.
So depending on where the Native Americans lived, this would change what kind of food sources they would rely on. So, for example, the tribes in the Northeast could rely on gathering berries, like these ones over here, and growing crops, whereas the tribes in the Great Basin would have to rely more on hunting animals and being nomadic. So let's head back in.
All right.
So, part two of my question, and it's actually a two-part question. So, does that mean that they also lived in different types of homes depending on where they were from?
That's true. Different environments require different types of shelter to survive. For example, tribes in the subarctic areas lived in small, hide or earth-covered shelters because they had to keep warm. On the contrary, in the Great Plains, tribes had to live in portable teepees that could be rolled up and moved, which was necessary for their nomadic lifestyle. Mark.
Is it true that the Indians were uncivilized savages?
That's actually not true. When the Europeans came from Europe, they greeted them with food and showed them various agricultural techniques. They also valued each other and nature with as much respect as themselves. And a quote here by Howard Zinn states, "Their kindness, humanity, and courtesy not only makes them liberal with what they have, but causes them to possess anything except in common." So they were very unselfish people.
What else does it mean?
Go look at your computer, bro. That's where you're reading everything.
If you know what you're doing, why don't you come up here and teach?
Alright, let's go.
It's gonna be better than yours.
Yeah. Let's go. I'm gonna ask us a question, Dr. Barber.
Alright, let's see if you know this one. The Europeans were more advanced than the Indians, right?
Actually, that's not true. Before the Europeans, the Indians were using irrigation canals, dams, and ceramics like pottery.
Yeah, and they actually had architecture and mathematics too.
Oh.
So, how you like that, Mr. Barber? You know what? I even got one more fact for you, alright?
Alright, let's hear it.
They were also more culturally advanced, which means they valued the men and woman equality.
And the woman. And the woman.
They also value the development of an individual's personality,
The personality.
willpower,
Willpower.
independence, and flexibility.
Alright, looks like you guys know your stuff.
Yeah.
But I got one more question for you.
What?
This is a tricky one. Did the Native Americans all have the same religious beliefs?
No, not really. They all actually had similar beliefs in the way of believing in a higher spiritual force. They also had rituals depending on what they valued, as in, some tribes would value crops while other tribes would value more animals.
Alright.
We're done.
That's enough for
Showing you
today.
what we know. How about you get back up here? I have a question.
James,
Did Native Americans have any political systems?
it's a good question. Depending on where they lived, they did have different systems. For example, in the subarctic, societies organized around individual households and clans that had headmen, whereas in the southwest, Pueblo societies were organized into clans with no actual leadership. So, depending on the character of their tribes, they had different types of political systems.
That's awesome, dude.